Hi everybody, my name is Chase and I'm the host of Fresh Off the Press presented by Blue Manatee Press. And I just want to thank you for checking out our podcast. This is our very first episode. And while there are things that we're still figuring out, I think for the most part this episode went together really well. And I'm really proud of it. So the reason why I'm here right now is I just wanted to preface the entirety of this podcast for you guys. What is it about? That's a good question. For those of you who don't know, Blue Manatee Press is a children's book publishing company located in Cincinnati, Ohio. We really focus on education and learning during a child's early development. So with that being said, we really want to focus this podcast on the same ideas. Only of course, this is more for you, the young adult or the new parent, or even the veteran parent too. A new podcast will be coming out on the 1st and 15th of every month, and our guests will range from our own authors and illustrators who we publish with, to pediatric doctors, to teachers, daycare owners, to even other parents. So essentially all experts in the field of early childhood development. So while we'll talk about children's books pretty often, we'll also talk outside of books themselves and more general ideas of early childhood development. That's why it's called Fresh Off the Press. Today's episode features our own author and illustrator, Erin Barker, who is the creator of Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party. And in this episode, we're really gonna dive into this whimsical Halloween world that she's created. The perfect book for kids ages 3 to 6 that involves counting 1 to 13. The goal of this podcast is to make it as relatable to you, the common person, as I can be. And I'm so proud of how this episode's turned out because I believe it is truly enjoyable. So without further ado, let's get right into the first episode, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. Hello, and welcome everybody to the very first episode of Fresh Off the Press, presented by Blue Manatee Press. My name is Chase Osborne, and I'm your host with the most, and I'm proudly the marketing manager for Blue Manatee Press. I consider myself quite the connoisseur for podcasts, and when Blue Manatee Press hired me, I told them one of the first things I want to bring to this publishing company is a podcast to help us interact and engage with the public. And boy, oh boy, could we not have gotten a better guest on our first episode than the one we have today. She's amazing, and I'll introduce her very shortly. But first, I just wanted to introduce Blue Manatee Press. Who are we? Well, we are a press with a purpose. Founded in Cincinnati, Ohio in 2011 by Dr. John Hutton, Blue Manatee Press has been on a mission to create meaningful, enduring books that help bring grown-ups and children together. Owned and helmed by a pediatrician, our team consists of experts in child development, fine art, and children's literature. We proudly publish original children's books that utilize a variety of artistic media and strive to create stories that are both educational and fun, with an emphasis on turning off screens and experiencing the world through hands-on creative play. We encourage you to go to our website, www.bluemanateepress.com, to learn more about us, as well as learn about our authors and illustrators, and explore our library of fun books to purchase for the little one in your life. Check out some of our renowned titles like our DR, that is Dialogic Reading, and Baby Unplugged board book series. Or check out some of our picture books like Odd Animal ABCs, Wake, or even one of our newest releases, Little Monster Trucks Go by Doug Cinco. Again, that is www.bluemanateepress.com, or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube at Blue Manatee Press. Ooh, it's spooky season, everybody. Today is October 1st, which means we're officially counting down the days to Halloween. Halloween is definitely my second favorite time of the year, only behind Christmas. Maybe behind Thanksgiving too. I do love to eat. Either way, the countdown to Halloween officially begins today. What better way should we at Blue Manatee Press celebrate than talking about our own fall-time counting picture book, Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party? Featured in the Fall 2019 Kids Indie Next list, Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party is a delightfully quirky counting book with gorgeous illustrations, including spooky elements and characters of lore who are all in attendance for this unexpectedly charming tea party. It's truly the perfect read for when there is a crisp chill in the air. And I don't know about everyone else elsewhere around the country, but the weather here in Cincinnati the last month has been wonderful. Cool, crisp, and dry. It's really felt like fall was here before it was even officially fall. And man, I just love this weather so much. There's nothing like being able to put on a flannel, get a nice warm cup of coffee, and sit by a fire, read a book. Just the best feeling. But hey, don't just take my word about this book. Here's what a few reviews have had to say about it. Publishers Weekly wrote, quote, formal wear, Baron Laguna sports a bow tie, tidy tea etiquette, and delicious homemade goodies. Mr. Pumpkin's berry-topped cake, Lord Wolfington's scones, portrayed this Halloween celebration as a quiet, stylish gathering framed by the counting sequence and the rhyming lines. Just right for fear-averse Halloween revelers. Betsy Covert of the Toadstool Bookshop says that Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party is, quote, this delightful Halloween-themed counting book which introduces Mr. Pumpkin's monstrous guests one by one as they arrive with their delectable contributions to this tea party. Soft and humorous illustrations with just the right amount of spookiness will surely make this a seasonal favorite. Everybody, you can order your copy of Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party today by going to our website, www.bluemanateepress.com. And of course, Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party is written and illustrated by our wonderful guest today, the one and only Erin Barker. Without further ado, let's get off the press and right into our conversation with the incredible Erin Barker. Is there a certain way that you want me to introduce you, or
I don't even care.
You're the author, you're the visionary here. You're the creator, right?
I don't know. I'm terrible. I don't know how. I don't care.
Well, let's try this. All right, everybody, for our first episode, which I'm really excited for, we have a great author and illustrator with us. She is the illustrator of What Is Soft with Susan Cantor, the illustrator of an upcoming book called Baby Monster that I absolutely love. I'm glad I've gotten to read it already. Written by Andrea Pfeiffer, and the author and illustrator of Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party. We have Erin Barker. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Chase. Thanks for having me on.
Great. That's great. Fun. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to start this podcast, and I hope that goes really well.
We'll see. I've got my cup of tea with honey and milk in it, and so I feel like I'm very appropriately set up for our podcast.
Yeah, Mr. Pumpkin. What kind of tea does Mr. Pumpkin drink?
I think Mr. Pumpkin drinks Earl Grey.
Okay.
He's a pretty classy dude. He definitely
he's got the top hat.
Yeah, it's just he's just got to go. He dresses the part,
Yeah.
He's got to go all out. He totally does Earl Grey, but he has to have it with honey and cream.
That's a great way to go.
Can't have it any other way. Yeah.
What kind of tea are you drinking?
Today I'm drinking an Irish breakfast.
Oh, okay.
That is delicious. Perfect for a good fall crisp morning.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a tea guy myself.
Listen, that's okay. That's all right.
I've tried it. I remember going over to my grandpa and grandma's as a kid, and we would have tea time with Prince and Princess. My sister was the princess, and I was a prince. And my grandma would serve us tea in this really nice, fine china, just a really nice glass set. It looks a lot like what you have in Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party.
Awesome.
And
was there a separate room? Was there a parlor that you guys would go into?
Yeah. It was awesome.
What's up with that, man?
I don't know. Grandparents just always did everything best,
I know. So true.
And as much as I didn't like the tea, I still couldn't wait to go over and play Prince and Princess time with my grandma. She would just serve it and drop that cube of sugar into it.
Shoot. Oh, they had the cubed sugar.
Yeah, she had the cubed sugar. Oh, yeah. I felt like I was missing a monocle and a vest.
Yeah, Oh, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
My grandma she had this really cool, the classic blue and white china.
Oh, yeah.
That just looked so cool. And she had these tiny little teacups that were more of a simple kind of a modern design.
Yeah.
But they still had the blue and the white designs on them. And we loved them. My sister and I. We wouldn't, I would kind of have imaginary tea parties.
Yeah.
But we would dress up and
yeah, we never dressed up, but
oh man, and it was also the time of my life when I was super into everything with frills and puffy sleeves and sequins. And like, I was like a super girly girl when I was really little before I went to school. And then my first grade class was all boys. And I got into dinosaurs real quick.
Talking about grandparents, I think it's a good lead-in for, I'm pretty sure I read about it, but just for you to explain, who was your inspiration for Mr. Pumpkin?
Yeah, Mr. Pumpkin kind of came from several different sources, but specifically the way that Mr. Pumpkin sits is very, and his body type, he's kind of long and lanky. That is specifically based on my grandfather, my mom's dad. He was this incredible, he was a neurosurgeon.
Wow.
He's like the most brilliant man I've ever known ever, and just so kind and gracious and humble, and like we do, the world did not deserve him. He would, because he had these long lanky legs, he like played basketball when he was younger, and he was just like always really like fit and active. But when he would sit down, like often even later in his life when he was really aging and kind of he got a lot thinner, he would cross his legs over in this way that I had never seen another human being do. It was,
you have to meet my brother. You have to meet my brother. He's basically a contortionist, and with the way that you draw Mr. Pumpkin, I can already envision like how his legs cross. My brother sits that way.
That's wild. That is wild. I've never seen any other like guy sit with his legs crossed like so far as my grandfather did. I would totally love to see that. But yeah, he's totally based on my grandpa. And then also a combination of a couple of my other guy friends who are really good hosts and just very gracious, sweet men.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and actually Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party, the concept of it, the whole idea of like he's having a party and is inviting all of his friends over, is based on my buddy Ian. His name's Ian Pasco, and he lives over on the west side. He's got this great house. It's like this gorgeous, he's kind of like refurbished it, like it's like really like 20s, 30s kind of mission style.
Love that style.
Yeah, it's like really, really cool. It's this beautiful house. And he's also like a wine rep for like a bunch of different places around town. And
very
so he
prestigious.
has this, very prestigious. Like it's got a huge wine cellar, and like so he'll host these parties and just invite his good friends over. And because he's got this great house, and he himself is a very dapper guy, that then
I can imagine.
We all come over and we like dress up and we have these fancy dinner nights, and we particularly have these parties often in the fall time.
Yeah.
And a bunch of my friends are just like a bunch of hipsters, a bunch of weirdo hipsters. And so we named these parties Denimtober parties.
Denimtober, I like that.
So we celebrate Denimtober basically when the fall like starts coming around, it starts getting a little bit crisp in the air.
My favorite time of the year.
Yeah, it's the best time of the year. A few of my guy buddies, they like have this whole like thing where they talk about Denimtober, like it's the most wonderful time of the year. The leaves start crunching, and all you want to do is just wear flannel and like sit in front of a fireplace with a blanket, like cozy up under a blanket, and you just have like a glass of bourbon and you have a book. And you're listening.
You are describing my life right now.
Right? Yeah. You like listen. You put some like record on some dude with a gravelly voice, and it just like, and that is Denimtober. And you would like often then you want to share that time with all of your friends. And so Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party is essentially a big Denimtober party.
I'm totally gonna see Mr. Pumpkin's totally different now. I'm not gonna see him in the dress and a top hat. I'm gonna see him in a denim jacket and jeans, or like and overalls with flannel on, and
right.
No,
we'll have.
I was just gonna say pumpkin season. Didn't mean to say that. Well, I mean essentially, but fall season, season. It is pumpkin season. I just love it. Like I'm a Scorpio. I was born in the fall. I'm made for the fall.
Right.
And
you're living your best life right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to grow out the beard. It's time to break out the flannel. It's like my go-to style. It's jeans with a hoodie and a flannel over top.
Yeah, that's what's up.
And we have a fire pit in our backyard. And you bet, like every night on a nice, crisp, cool night, I'm back there in that fire pit.
Yep.
Getting some hickory logs going, or
shoot.
Yeah, it smells great. Well, that's fun.
Yeah, you and Mr. Pumpkin will be buds.
Yeah, so are the other characters somewhat based off of your friends at these parties, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
every single one of them. And the funny thing is, I was like halfway through making this book, and I realized I wasn't even doing it consciously.
Yeah.
I was like adding in these characters, and then I realized, like, oh my gosh, this is Hannah, this is Keaton, this is Ian, I was like, oh my gosh, like my friends, we all had like this revelatory moment. I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really funny.
I've written a couple short stories and I'm always amazed by that, just like how I'll develop these characters, but I guess subconsciously I'm developing their attributes based off of people I know and like friends that absolutely. I have.
Yep, 100%. It was a hilarious realization. And then I'm like telling all my friends, they were like, "Are you kidding? Oh my gosh!" My friend Leslie freaked out. It's like her favorite thing to talk about when she talks about Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party. She points out the page that she's on.
Who is she?
She's the wolf who brings the brings the scones.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing is, she's actually gluten-free.
Oh.
She's like celiac. And so she can't even eat scones. That's what I had the wolf bring. She's actually a really selfless person. So she's totally done that before. She'll bring things that she can't eat, but she knows that other people will love. Yeah, she's a very selfless person.
That's almost like a cruel prank on her, though, to be like, hey, this is you, but you brought in scones.
You brought scones.
So who's Sir Bones?
Sir Bones is actually Ian Pascoe, to his chagrin.
Oh.
His character is actually him because he's the one who brings the drinks. He brings the cider, and also he's the oldest of our friend group, so he's the skeleton. He was actually a little miffed that I made Sir Bones rather portly. I made him a little rotund, and he was like, "Is that me? Am I this little like fat guy?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about? It's not like you don't look like a portly skeleton."
So it's just fun, portly skeleton, something you want to expect.
That's right. And actually, like, Sir Bones is several people's favorite characters.
I think he's my favorite character. When I was developing that GIF. And yes, I pronounce it GIF.
You do? That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The creator of the GIF actually, like, during a convention, he wasn't there to accept his, like, Lifetime Achievement Award, but he made a GIF to accept it. And the first picture is it's, the next one pronounced, and then the last picture was a GIF peanut butter jar.
Oh my god!
And that's how he accepted his award. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that GIF that I created of Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party, which everyone can see on our Twitter, and you can download it from there too. I actually like making Sir Bones and animating him was probably my favorite part, just because it just flowed so well with like like tipping the hat, but two, like lifting up the cider jar. I'm a bourbon kind of guy, and I just kind of imagine that bourbon was in that cider jar.
Yeah, I had to design the label specifically so that it wouldn't look like it was just booze that he brought with him.
It's like a subtle thing that adults would get, though.
I know. I first had like this cool design where it was like a skull with wings on it. And it said like Mr. Bones is like cider. Amy, my editor, and I, we were just like, you know what? No, we got it. We have to make it. We have to make it kid appropriate. We can't have this skeleton bringing hard liquor to this party.
A little bit of that's not spiced cider. That's some spiked cider.
That's right.
My girlfriend is a teacher down in downtown Cincinnati's West End. And I grew up in a family. My grandma was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. Like, I just grew up. My great-grandma was. Everyone was a teacher, and I grew up on children's books. And I always explain to everyone when I'm talking about your book, since I started at Blue Manatee, I love between, like Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party, the cider. I kind of picked up on the implications there. But my favorite part about Baby Monster, which is coming out November 10th, is the scene that you drew of the baby monster just blurting out an obvious explicit. Can't talk right now. I just took a sip of coffee and explicitive or
expletive. There we go.
There you go. Why is it such
that
and saying similarly? I can't pronounce this word.
Similarly,
And Amy uses it all the time in the office. I'm like, okay, it's just a flex now because I can't say it. But you can tell that's an explicitive, and it's hysterical to me. It's almost like something Disney or Pixar would do, right? Like humor that adults would get, but like a kid's probably gonna laugh because the parent's gonna change the page and they're gonna read that and they're gonna laugh, and the kid's gonna be like, oh yeah, ha, ha, ha. That's funny. I love that. I love that about your books. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite pages too. I think my favorite little part of that page is that spread is the grandmother that's holding the ears of the little boy that's sitting on the bench, and the little boy's going like, ooh, like he's like shocked to hear this word for the first time.
It is such a great page as a whole, and the parents, the scientists who are just they're just distraught when they realize like what their little baby monster is yelling. Everybody, Baby Monster comes out November 10th. Gonna plug it. It's a great book. You and Andrea both did a great job.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really fun working with Andrea. She and I had been friends for a couple of years before we worked on this project together. And it was just really fun. We had a couple of really, really lovely kind of editing sessions between the two of us where we were just kind of going over the manuscript kind of in a little bit of the earlier stages. And it was a little bit too long. And she was really needing to kind of cut it down a little bit.
You love to see that kind of chemistry.
Yeah. We had a couple of really, really good editing sessions that were just fun. You know, just kind of brainstorming stuff and different ideas. And because this is based off of her first child.
The little baby monster, huh?
The little baby monster. And Louise is so cute. I love Louise so much. It's been really fun to see her grow up a little bit. It was a fun project to work on. It was especially fun to work on like how I wanted the two scientists to look like. How visually I wanted them to be. I wanted them to sort of be complements of each other, in that like I wanted them to be pretty different looking, but that they looked good together. So the mom is this tall, lanky redhead, and the dad is a little bit of a shorter, like a squarer build, darker skin tone. In my head, he's Hispanic, possibly I have in one of the spreads, we have them wrestling on some pillows, and we had I put in some details of like there are some books that are spread around, and we have some folk tales of Mexico, and then we have some luchador little like playing action figures.
Oh, what great little Easter eggs.
Yeah,
stuff I'm going to look for next time.
In my head, he's from Mexico and loves like bringing these like elements of his culture to his family. And there's a little Lucha Libre book that's in that little spread too. So
fantastic.
Yeah, it was really fun to add sort of some of those details and bring those two characters to life. Yeah, it was a fun project for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you have personal inspirations for the characters too, or was this just more of creative liberty at this point?
My parents are a little bit built like this. And again, I did this subconsciously, and my mom pointed it out. She was like, "This is kind of like Dad and me." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, my dad is not from Mexico, but my dad is definitely a little bit stockier."
Yeah,
us Barkers are much more stockier builds, and my mom is this total like tall, lanky. She's built like my grandfather, who is Mr. Pumpkin.
Yeah.
And so she's like all very lanky, and so there was a little bit of inspiration that came from that. Other than that, it was just kind of artistic liberty. Also, I really wanted to have a mixed biracial couple.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah,
I think
really
more
to show some diversity.
Yeah, more books need that just to make it feel more normal and natural for kids who are young and reading these. That there's nothing out of the ordinary. I'd love to see that
for sure, and that's been something that as long as I've been working with Blue Manatee and with Amy, that's been something that we've really tried to prioritize and really showing a lot of diversity in our books.
What was your favorite part? Like, what was your favorite scene in Mr. Pumpkins? What was your favorite thing to draw?
Man, that's like asking to choose my favorite child or something.
I'm gonna basically ask you, to choose your favorite child, you know?
Don't tell the other pages. Don't tell the other characters.
Yeah, if it's too bad, if it may hurt their feelings, maybe we'll just edit this out, right?
That's right. Just like, close your ears. Yeah, man, that's really tough, actually. I loved any scene where I got to draw the willow in the backyard.
Okay.
So we have the opening page where Mr. Pumpkin's walking out and the sun is just starting to maybe get a little bit sunsetty, and we see the willow tree, and there's sort of something in the tree's trunk that you can't quite tell. And my favorite, when I read this book to kids for the first time, I was like, oh, what is that? I don't know. We'll have to see later. And it ends up being like the clock, which is the number 13 when we get to the 13th number. And there's a clock wonderful. In it with the eye on top of it, which is just like a cool little like thing that I thought would be mysterious to add in.
You do really well with adding in Easter eggs.
Thank you.
This is so fun.
Thanks. That was something that as a kid, when I would read picture books, I always would gravitate toward my favorites. Always had some type of little Easter egg, something to find, something to discover. I wanted to get lost in the illustrations. Like Graham Base, who made The 11th Hour and Animalia, and let's see what other ones. He made a few other picture books back in the 80s and 90s. They were these really rich, really well-rendered books. And The 11th Hour was this like, it was almost like sort of like a murder mystery, except there wasn't a murder at the end. You know, there was like a mystery at the end of this party, almost a little bit like Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party, in that this guy was holding a big party for all of his friends, and it was a birthday party. And then you had to solve this mystery that you discover that this thing happens at the end of the story. And so then you have to go back through the book and find all of these tiny little clues, like put together like ciphers, and like,
oh, that's like fantastic. Really I love that.
Like even looking through it as an adult, I was like, this is hard. I don't know that I can do this.
You know what's insane is that as a kid, I could probably figure it out better than I could now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some science behind that, where maybe you just weren't overthinking as a kid like you do now,
sure.
You know?
Yeah, or our brains aren't quite as stimulated in the same
right.
way. Yeah, so I always love like books with little like things to find, things to solve, hidden parts of the story. So I really wanted, especially for my very first picture book that was all my own, I really wanted those kinds of details to be in there, which is why I decided to put in the black cat, Winston, in every page or every spread. When the kids discover that there's a black cat hidden on every page, then they like lose their minds, and they just want to they don't want to do anything except look for this cat.
Oh, it's almost gonna feel like my third eye is open now you're saying all of these. Like I'm gonna notice them on every page now.
Yeah. So I don't know what my favorite page would be. I do really love the one with all the teacups, where he's pouring the tea, and I love the one with probably the opening scene where you see the tree and the lake and the house.
Yeah, I would have to say that's mine too.
Yeah, I like the house one too, which I think is number 6, where the lanterns.
Yeah.
You're trying to find the lanterns, and so you're seeing the other side of the house, the front entry, and you see kind of the walkway, and Winston is hiding in the bushes.
Yeah, I like the closing too, where they're all leaving and flying across the moon. And that one, actually, right now I'm animating it for our Storyline Online style video that we're doing, right? And making that witch go across the moon has probably been my favorite part to animate.
Love it. Yeah, that one's one of my favorites too, because you get to see the different characters interact with each other, and you kind of see more of like their friendships.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I also really like the one with the frogs.
I do too. Yeah,
I think that's number 10 maybe. I really liked putting the personality in each of the frogs. One of them is like, his mouth is super wide open, and to me he's got this big bass voice. And then there's one that's just going like, ooh. And that was really fun. That one, actually, I got a little bit of inspiration from William Joyce, is another one of my favorite illustrators. He did he's done like 1.5 million picture books, but he more recently has done some movies. He did that Guardians of Childhood movie.
Oh, great.
That's based on like a bunch of his books, picture books. He also did one of my favorite Christmas books, which is called Santa Calls. And then he also did Meet the Robinsons.
Oh.
Which was they made into a movie. It was originally titled, the picture book was originally titled A Day with Wilbur Robinson.
Yeah, and, I think I have a copy of that.
Yeah,
that
one's so good. Yeah, that one's really good. And so actually in that story, you're kind of going through their house and it's like wild and wacky and there's 1.5 million things happening.
Right.
And at one point, I think the whole time they're looking for their grandfather's lost teeth. Lost set of teeth, and they find the teeth finally in the frog. There's like this frog that's leading this band who's wearing the teeth, and he like does this big backflip and then smiles at the end. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's Grandpa's teeth!" And that scene in particular, I kind of used as a little bit of inspiration. I was thinking about that scene.
I love that
when I was making that number 10 page with all the frogs singing, because this page from William Joyce.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And William Joyce actually loves Halloween. We had a book about William Joyce and all of his illustrations. It was like The World of William Joyce.
Yeah.
He decorates his house for Halloween every year, like paints like elaborate paintings on his walls of like pumpkins. And,
I wish I could paint.
Awesome. It is wild. He is incredible. He absolutely loves Halloween. So that was a little bit of a nod to him as well.
That was my dad's big holiday that we celebrated.
Yeah.
Growing up, we were the house in the neighborhood. In our little neighborhood subdivision area, there were like 3 or 4 streets. All of them would come over for our big annual Halloween party. He would just go all out. But on Halloween night too, we had, because we were one of the only houses with a wraparound porch, he'd put tarps up along it and make it a haunted house that kids had to go through, and you had to get to the end to get the candy unless you were a certain age.
That's awesome.
So and we had like jump scares in it and a place where kids could reach in, and for a brain it was spaghetti, or for eyeballs it was grapes and such, but they had like reach in and touch and try to find the candy in one of those holes. And it was a great time, and that's a legacy I really want to continue.
You want to continue?
Yeah, because I just remember as a kid, like, you knew it was Halloween season. One of the first couple weeks of October, we hopped off the bus and came down the street, and all the kids just got excited because they'd see my dad on the porch setting up the tarps, like, oh yeah, the haunted house is going up. And there's just so much joy that came from that.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
It's just so fun to set up and celebrate Halloween. Speaking of the tree and the clock that you brought up,
yes,
is there symbolism to 13 on the clock, or?
Well, we were originally going to just make it count up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then during one of our editing sessions, Amy and I we realized, you know what if we counted up to 13? Because 13 is the spookiest number.
Yeah. So
I was like, okay, let's count up to 13. And then it took us kind of forever to really get to, okay, what were we going to have be the 13th thing? And I think we were going to make the clock strike 12 at 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't remember whose idea it was, whether it was mine or Amy's, but we kind of realized, wait, what if we kind of had this almost like a witching hour kind of thing where it was the clock struck 13.
Yeah.
And this sort of spooky, like, oh boy, like now they can, the party is at its, height or whatever it is. And that just makes it all the more mysterious. Yeah, there isn't necessarily like a specific reference to anything other than just it being like mysterious and spooky.
I like that.
Yeah, and does there exist a 13th hour? Like kind of asking that to kids, and they're like, oh, I don't know.
Well, the creatures, they come out at night at 13 o'clock,
right. At 13 o'clock, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a play on, what do they say the witching hours are, 3 in the morning?
I don't remember. Sometime like that, where it's like way too late for you to even be awake.
Right. Last question. Yep. How did you create Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party?
How did I create it? Like what?
Yeah, like how did the idea originate?
Yeah, so it came from an Inktober sketch that I made. Inktober is this thing on Instagram, started by Jake Parker, I think, who's a really great illustrator and author. It's an exercise during the month of October, where you are supposed to do one drawing a day, and it needs to be in ink. It can be anything at all. It can be simple. It can be elaborate. But it's just a really great drawing exercise for artists. to just like get drawing and to kind of loosen up your muscles. And it's a great little warm up.
I like that.
So I think it was maybe 2015, somewhere around that time. And I did this simple little drawing of a pumpkin wearing this suit. And drinking a cup of tea, and he was saying something like, "I dare say," or something like that.
I dare say.
I dare say. And then the next day, like, I liked it, so I had so much fun drawing it, that I decided to draw. I think I actually called it, the little caption was "Tea with Mr. Pumpkinhead," and I gave him like a little, like a vest and a jacket and pants, and you can even see like a little like chain to like a little watch, like a little pocket watch, and it just had a really good reception on Instagram. Everyone really liked it, and so then I drew a little companion for him then the next day that was then Tea with Mr. Pumpkin and Sir Skeleton. So I drew who became Sir Bones. He wasn't quite as portly. He was pretty skinny as well, but they're then both saying, he's saying "I dare say," and then Sir Skeleton is saying "Indeed." And they both have these cups of tea, and there's this little flower pot in between them. And I just had this, I don't know where even the inspiration really came from, but I was kind of wanting to draw just like this little dapper gentleman. I love like tea parties, and I don't know if I was drinking tea that morning or whatever, but it just seemed really fun. And like, there isn't enough like proper spooky stuff out there, and elegant spooky stuff. So I was also doing a lot of calligraphy classes. I used to teach calligraphy workshops. I think I was just in this mindset of like really enjoying this calligraphy world and just wanting to make these really beautiful, elegant shapes and drawings. And I think that just kind of came out of that time. So that drawing of Sir Bones and Mr. Pumpkin, Amy then showed me, or she brought it up at a company Christmas party. Then I think the next year, and she was like, "Hey, I saw this drawing that you made like a long time ago. I think we could make." She was like, "I want us to do a Halloween book, and I think this would be so perfect for us to do some kind of Halloween book. So let's talk.
I love the irony how this was created almost at a Christmas party.
At a Christmas party, yeah. It's the night before Christmas, essentially. And a lot of people have compared Mr. Pumpkin to like a
Jack Skellington.
Jack Skellington.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, that was where the idea was born.
I love that.
Yeah.
Give us maybe a teaser. Do you have any other plans for future Mr. Pumpkins? Is he going to be hosting any more tea parties, or?
I would love to do a sequel to Mr. Pumpkin. We are in the works of making some type of another, like a board book version, probably. I actually don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about that, so maybe you might need to edit that out.
All right, yep. I'll talk to Amy after this, and
make sure you clear it with Amy. But,
was there a non-disclosure act, or?
Yeah, well, we've talked about making it's this still Mr. Pumpkin, but just like a simpler version for more of a younger audience. But that wouldn't necessarily be anything new. But I do want to do a sequel.
How fun for him to like host a Christmas party or something.
I know that has been an idea that's been floating around a little bit. What I would really like to do is at some point have Mr. Pumpkin going to his friends' houses, and he's maybe looking for Winston the cat. And so he's going and asking Sir Bones. He goes to Sir Bones' house and, "Have you seen Mr. Pumpkin?" Or "Have you seen Winston?" Or whatever he's looking for. "No, I haven't seen him," but we get to see Sir Bones' house. And then we go to the next one. We go to Lady Nightshade's home. And so we would get to see these different characters in more of their own context.
Yeah,
and that would be really, really fun to do. I would have a blast.
It'd be such a great way of developing lore within your Mr.
Yeah.
Pumpkin's
yeah,
universe.
Baby.
Like,
Oh man.
you're using the cat.
Yeah.
The cat's just a little Easter egg in the first book, but then the cat
Right.
becomes the focus point of another book. Maybe you have like the willow tree as a focus at some point, or
Yeah.
it's just like you
Yep.
get all these little things that you enjoy. Oh man, that's so much fun. Yeah, you could develop a whole
Yeah.
a whole universe.
I know. I also one of my buddies, Joel, who I wasn't friends with I wasn't as close of friends with when I made the first Mr. Pumpkin, and he was very put out that he didn't get to be a character in the book. And so I said, well, I've been thinking about adding a new character, and you can be this character, Joel. So like in the sequel, I do also want to add a new character that would be called Earl Grey, and he's a ghost.
I like that.
So yeah, we'll see. Nobody take my ideas, please.
Yeah, I know.
I'm now like spilling all my secrets now.
No, you know what? We have right here evidence that you came up with it first.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Watch it, people.
Stay off intellectual property.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I mean, It's been a pleasure having you on the first podcast. You're a great guest to have, too. It just felt natural. The conversation was great. And
it was fun.
I just want to encourage everyone to check out Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party. Great book, fantastic book. It's a great counting book, but even if your kid already knows how to count, it's a fun book to read as a family, especially at nighttime during this spooky holiday season.
Yes. It's also got some good vocab words in here that are good for slightly older readers to learn.
Yeah, it's actually funny. When you mentioned that he's having a soiree or something like that.
Soiree. Yeah.
My poor girlfriend.
Oh no!
Because she wanted to read it to her class, we got a copy, and she's like, Chase, what's this word?
Oh no!
She was like, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's like soiree or soiree. I know what it means, but pronunciation for me is still, I'm not French. My brother can speak French, but
oh, nice.
Yeah.
I took Spanish, so I didn't take French, but I do believe it is pronounced soiree.
Soiree. All right, well, there you go, readers or listeners. When you read the book, it's soiree.
Yes. Well, hopefully, if we do a video of it, we can have the correct pronunciation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of video, when this podcast is released, October 1st, our visual video book that we're putting together, which Erin will be reading, will also be released on our YouTube and other social media. So check that out, Blue Manatee Press on YouTube. It's going to be a fun book, reading, visual. I don't even know what to really call it, but it's going to be great. Adding little animations to bring her book to life, and she'll be reading it, and it's a great thing that you can watch with your family. So that will be released same day as this, October 1st. Check it out on the YouTube. On the YouTubes. That just sounded really old there.
That was good. That was
I would love to have Andrea on, and perhaps you and Andrea, probably around November 1st, so we can talk about Baby Monster more. Yeah, I'm really excited for that one. That one comes out November 10th. Everybody, you can start looking into that. I'm pretty sure you can pre-order it now, too. Check out Erin Barker on her social medias. I'm pretty sure it's Hooray Lorraine on both Twitter and Instagram.
Lorraine.
Okay.
Yep.
HOORAYLORRAINE. Check her out on her social medias. I love your Instagram. It's got a great aesthetic to it. I love the different art that you draw. I loved your picture of Harry Potter.
that was a long time ago. That was a fun little doodle. Yeah.
You definitely have a style to your art. You can tell from our books released which ones are illustrated by the great Erin.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for being our guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was super fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you had fun. Now, how wonderful was that conversation? Erin's honestly just such a joy to talk with. It's always super interesting to learn about an author and illustrator's inspiration behind characters. How fun is it that every character in Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party is based on people in her own life? I've got to say, Lord Wolfington may be my favorite character because I do love a good delicious scone. But especially learning the backstory to the person who inspired Lord Wolfington, it just makes the character that much more fun and enjoyable. Or how about the little details and Easter eggs that she hid in each spread of the book? Since she told me about the black cat, I do see it everywhere. Either I didn't before, or I just didn't think about it. I don't know. But now I do. It's like a third eye has been opened for me. And the clock on the willow tree is such a fun touch to this whimsical world that Erin's created. One last time, if you'd like to order your own copy of Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party, you can find it on our website at www.bluemanateepress.com. I hope everyone enjoyed our very first episode of Fresh Off the Press, presented by Blue Manatee Press. We'll be releasing new episodes to you wherever you like to listen to podcasts, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or even Stitcher, on the 1st and 15th of every month. Make sure to follow us on those platforms, and hey, give us a like if you enjoyed this episode. Likes help us out a lot with discoverability as a new podcast show. Of course, we encourage you to follow us and connect with us on our social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find us at Blue Manatee Press. New videos as well as podcast uploads are available on our YouTube. Look up Blue Manatee Press on YouTube. Released today on YouTube is our first interactive visual story time of Mr. Pumpkin's Tea Party, hosted and read by Erin Barker. Go watch it! We put so much work into it, and I had so much fun producing it. I am so proud of how it's turned out. Please go watch it, I encourage you. I'm pretty sure you and the little ones in your life will definitely enjoy it. Everybody out there, I am your host, Chase Osborne, and this has been the very first episode of Fresh Off the Press, presented by Blue Manatee Press. I'll see you on the 15th.